Hi, I'm Chris Osmond, and this is my take. Today I'd like to talk about a few things. The first being the police layoffs that are coming. This is a given because the Republicans refused to sign off on $35 billion that would keep police officers, firefighters, and first responders actually working, or give states and cities the ability to hire more police officers and firefighters and first responders. What I would like these states and cities to consider is when laying off these police officers that will be coming down the pike, they might want to consider laying off those police officers with a checkered past. Those police officers that have had practices that were a little brutal when interacting with the public. An instance that I would like to point out is what happened in Oakland on October 25th. Where there was a Marine or an ex-Marine who got struck in the back of the head by, I guess, a rubber bullet or something, and his skull was cracked open, and he was bleeding profusely. In that case, protesters came over, and they were trying to assist and to remove this injured man from the fray that was going on around them. And right next to those protesters, there was a line of riot gear clad police officers who were not being threatened in any way by any protesters at that moment. Because in the video that you can see on YouTube, the protesters were only approaching the injured man who was down on the ground. They had surrounded him and were trying to figure out what best action to take to remove the man from the scene and to get him assistance. When all of a sudden, from one of the police officers, you see a flashbang grenade tossed into the middle of the crowd. The grenade goes off and the crowd disperses. Eventually they did remove that police officer, and I guess he's in critical care right now, or in critical condition right now. And in my opinion, that officer who so readily threw that flashbang grenade into a crowd of people who weren't even approaching the line of riot gear clad police officers, they weren't even paying any attention to those police officers at that time. All their focus was on the gentleman who was laying down injured on the ground. When you have police officers like that are so ready to resort to violence, you're going to have questions raised as far as how your department is handling things, how they are handling the people in general, and whether or not some of the officers in your department should even be police officers. So when laying off police officers, when these layoffs come, and they will be coming, and I don't know why the police are siding with the 1% and siding with the elite and siding with the corporations and siding with the politicians that are telling them to go out there and arrest and harass and brutalize protesters, when those protesters are fighting for their rights as well. But anyway, regardless, I don't know. I believe that it might behoove those departments to lay off those police officers who have had questionable tactics in the past, who have shown brutal reaction, who have resorted to violence when responding to public disturbances, or resorting to movements like the Occupy Wall Street movement, which is a peaceful protest. Lay off those people first. That way your department avoids any conflicts, or avoids as many conflicts as possible. Anyway, the next thing I'd like to talk about are those people out there, those corporations that love to pollute our environment and get away with it so readily, because the fines that are levied upon them are so small as to not put a dent in their profits. These corporations don't care about fines. They'll keep polluting and keep polluting and keep paying the fines, because the fines mean nothing to them, not when their profits are so much larger than the fines that are levied upon them. Why not consider this? Don't fine, refine, and confine. Don't fine these people. Refine the laws to hold them more accountable for their actions. Change the laws so that their lives are more directly impacted when they impact other people's lives in such a direct manner as to pollute their neighborhoods and to cause health issues in their neighborhoods. One instance that I'm thinking of in particular was documented in a film that you can see on CokeBrothersExposed.com. In this film, there's an entire neighborhood. There's 15 houses on this neighborhood. And of those 15 houses, 11 have experienced death due to some kind of cancer. In some cases, it's lung cancer, in which the person that died never smoked a day in their life, but they get lung cancer. And then in the same documentary, you can see the residents, or the mayor of this town. He goes to this man-made canal, which leads directly from one of the Koch brothers' factories, and you can see the sheen of pollution floating on top of this canal, the water in this canal, and you can see the steam coming off of it. And there's a strong odor, according to what they're saying in the film. And then the other residents of that same neighborhood, where so many have died, they're on respirators, breathing apparatuses. I think in that case, where it's obviously something that's in the air, and there's pollution running right through the neighborhood, in those cases, maybe you should consider confining the people that are polluting those neighborhoods, the CEOs, or in this case the Koch brothers. Confine them to live in that neighborhood for a certain period of time. They should have to live there and deal with the same environment that they force others to deal with and live in. Don't refine the laws and confine the people that are guilty of breaking those laws. That might have more of an impact on how they see the world and how they see pollution and how they feel about polluting themselves. The last thing is kind of related to that, but it's more general as far as the laws in this country are concerned. It seems that too often we have seen where people get off because the letter of the law had to be followed. They get off because of some technicality, when their guilt is beyond a shadow of a doubt. In those instances, why not consider the spirit of the law, and why not convict based upon that? Maybe we should have some kind of amendment in our Constitution that says that in certain instances where guilt is established beyond a shadow of a doubt, the spirit of the law is considered more so than the letter of the law, so that any discrepancies between the law and what the law was meant to enact is covered. I mean, they can discuss that and determine what the spirit of the law is. And in a lot of cases, it's obvious the spirit of the law. I mean, we can look at all these bankers, all these CEOs, all these financial investors that basically stole billions from millions of people around the country and stole their future and stole their hope for any future, stole their security, made them feel insecure as far as where they were going to get food, how they were going to live, how they were going to shelter themselves, where they were going to work. In those cases, and I'm not speaking of the cases where there's doubt, I'm talking of the cases where it was a flagrant violation of the law. There are so many instances when that happened, and there have been no convictions, there have been no indictments coming down. There are no people who are on trial now for those cases. There are some scapegoats that have been put on trial out there, but for the ones that really committed the true crimes against our country, against the people of this country, they're still out there. They're still living the high life. And they don't even have any concern about what the harm that they've done to this nation. Let's consider making our laws so that they can consider the spirit of those laws as opposed to the letter of the law. And let's get rid of some of these technicalities that the obviously guilty get off based on. Thank you.